Welcome back to the Saints and Alumni Show right here on WVCR 88.3 The Saint. I'm your host this week, Brandon Murphy from the class of 2017, Associate Director of Alumni Engagement. And this week I'm joined by Siena men's head basketball coach, Gerry McNamara. A reminder to everyone listening to us that there are a few ways to listen to the Saints and Alumni Show. A bi-weekly podcast highlighting members of the Siena community. You can listen on WVCR 88.3 The Saint, iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, and subscribe to the Siena Alumni YouTube channel to listen and watch the complete selection of shows. Coach, welcome to Siena College. Officially welcome to the show. How's it been the first couple of months, and how you doing today?
I appreciate you having me. It's been great. Kind of a whirlwind those first few weeks, really the first 2 months. But as soon as really June 1st hit, where we had our guys on campus, we were lucky in terms of recruiting, where we kind of compiled the roster pretty quickly. It wasn't easy, but we were able to do it fast. And from June 1st to really 5 minutes before I walked in here, we've been on campus with the guys, working with them and running practices. So just getting acclimated to the community, to the campus, trying to immerse myself into as many relationships in terms of meeting new people that I can. And but my general main focus has been on the development of our group.
And we're going to get into that in the second segment today, talk a little bit about your staff, talk about the roster that you assembled later on in the show today. But for our listeners, there's going to be a lot of people that kind of know your story, and there's going to be a few that may not. So we kind of want to begin the show today with just a brief overview of kind of where you grew up, kind of your family, and how you discovered the love of the game.
Yeah, I'm from Scranton, Pennsylvania. My father, most people, The Office, that's what they'll say as soon as I say Scranton, PA. But my father loved the game. Kept me around it. I was the youngest of four, so my siblings, I have two older sisters, older brother, they were all in sports. So by the time I was growing up, my dad was coaching a lot of those bitty basketball teams, and certainly my older brother. But it was my dad exposing me to the game, because he realized at a young age that I loved it. I had an opportunity to see guys like Bobby Serra. It might be a foreign name to you guys, but Bob Serra played at Florida State, played in the NBA a long time, and I remember going to see him at the Scranton CYC. My dad said, we're going to watch a pretty special player tonight. Right before tip-off, I said, which one is he? The ball got tipped. He drove down and dunked on a 6'7" guy. He goes, we're here to see that guy. So I was exposed at a young age, and I had really good coaching at a young age. And, I just fell in love with the game. If you haven't watched the video NBA Superstars, it's old school, but it's Magic, Larry, Michael Jordan. It's like all video of highlights of them. To music, and as soon as I got that tape, emulating on a basket with a hanger in my bedroom, hanging in the air like MJ, trying to do things that I'm not physically capable of doing, but I always loved the game, and my dad knew it, and he exposed me to it.
When I played basketball in high school, I was only 5'7", so if I could touch the bottom of the net, that was a success for me. And as you're playing in high school as well, when did you start really considering, making it to that next level, and ultimately, why did you decide to play at Syracuse University?
Yeah, I guess I always envisioned of idolizing those players I just mentioned. So the NBA was always kind of something that was just a dream, and as you play because you love it, and as you go and you get better and you start to prove yourself of how good you're capable of being, you get noticed for it, and started to get recruited, and it was really the relationship I had with Coach Boeheim and Mike Hopkins. The fact that I am somewhat of a homebody in terms of I have a big family, extended family, and I wanted the opportunity to go play somewhere at the highest level, but at the same time not go too far from home, so my mother and father would get an opportunity to see me play, my family. And it just so happened that the school I loved the most and recruited me the hardest was two hours up the road. So it was just kind of a perfect fit for me. The first time I drove up 81 North from Scranton, PA to Syracuse, New York, when we pulled in, I said, wow, that drive was so easy. And that was kind of it, and the relationship piece kind of took off from there.
And before we kind of get into some of the best memories as a player specifically at Syracuse University, can you talk a little bit about the adjustment from coming from the high school game to the competitiveness of Division I, Syracuse, and the Big East?
Yeah, it's just a different speed and different physicality. You even saw with Caitlin Clark making the jump to the WNBA. You saw who was the player? One of the famous WNBA players. She caught flack for saying it, but Diana Taurasi. She said that she's going to have an adjustment, and people crushed her for it. But I was thinking in my head, yeah, of course she is. Any player that makes a jump up in level, the speed and physicality is different. It just takes a little bit of time to adjust to it. You might have to get your shot off a little bit faster. You got to get a little stronger, a little quicker. And, everybody, it depends. You can come in as a 17, 18-year-old, and you're playing against a 22-year-old. And those guys have been in it. They've adjusted to it already, and you've got to adjust to their speed. So just the talent level, every move you make and you move up, the talent level's through the roof.
And for you, it's uncommon nowadays for a player to stay at the same college or university the entire time. But you stayed at Syracuse all the years that you were there. And as you look back on your time as a player specifically, what stands out to you the most? Maybe the top two things that you text your buddies about still, or that you look back about fondly?
The national championship team. We obviously have a group message. You stay in touch with those guys for sure. But it's rare these days where you see guys stick out 4 years. Guys are jumping around. NIL plays a factor. If a guy has a good year, they're going to hit the market and see what they can make. It's just the nature of the way it's become. I'm happy that I missed that era because I wouldn't trade my experience as a 4-year player and gave everything to a program. I wouldn't trade that for any short-term gain. And loyalty is something that anybody that knows me that knows that that's kind of what I'm about. And I've had some incredible teammates and incredible memories at that place, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. So I'm very blessed, very fortunate to have attended there, and kind of built the resume that I did through the program.
And you talk about loyalty, and I think it was pretty obvious. I think on your senior day there was probably 25 buses that came up from Scranton for that game, and as you were nearing the end of that season and your time at Syracuse, were you looking at playing professionally, or how did you kind of get into the coaching ranks?
Yeah, I played 3 years pro, and it had become a business for me, and that was a problem for me. Like I was physically hurt, and I lost a little bit of love for what I felt like I wasn't playing for anything other than myself, and that was kind of different for me. I always liked the feeling of playing for something bigger than myself, and it was Coach Boeheim who kind of nudged me into it to join his staff. It didn't even cross my mind until he asked me. I was just, I was in between jobs. I had come home from overseas, and I went to the Big East tournament, and then I followed the team after watching the 6 overtime game, the famous game. I was there, and Coach and I caught up down in New York, and then I drove from Scranton, PA, before they left for the NCAA tournament to watch them practice before they left, and I flew to Miami to watch them play, just because I was like, I love Cuse. Like, let me go follow this. I'm in between jobs. Let me go see how they do. I liked watching them, being around it. And when I was in Syracuse before they left, Coach asked me to come back, and I wasn't ready for it. I just wasn't ready to give up the game yet, but the more that time passed, the more I realized how much I loved being immersed into that development piece and playing again for something bigger than myself and being a part of that. And it just became more appealing as the weeks went by. So when he called me again, I accepted the position.
I remember watching that 6 OT game. I was watching with my dad, and he said if it goes past 2 a.m., you don't have to go to school the next day. And I think it ended at like 1:57, and I had to go up and go to the school the next day. A lot of great memories, though, and obviously you have a lot of memories within Syracuse on the coaching side as well, and that comes with a lot of people with mentorship and guidance along the way. As you look back on your time within the coaching ranks and developing as a coach, who do you look back on as an influential figure within that?
Within my coaching experience? Yeah, I mean, Coach Boeheim, Mike Hopkins, Adrian Autry. I'm really lucky to have Alan Griffin. Like, we had such a great group in terms of colleagues, and it's not always the case in our profession. I think there's a lot of guys that are trying to move up quick and try to get head coaching jobs and move and this and that. This is my guy. This is my guy. This is my recruit. And it was just, we had a family environment, and that was important for me. It touched on the bigger than myself thing, and I've just had a lot of great people that we're all in it together, and it made it very easy for me in terms of a transition to be a head coach of what I wanted in terms of my staff and how I wanted to build the program and what it should feel like. And but Coach being by my side for 15 years, working me in from graduate assistant to assistant, Hop, watching him recruit me and then work under him, and then me taking over the guards when I'm on full time, and then watching him go through his process as a head coach. And then being with Adrian through his process, taking the transition from Coach Boeheim to him at Syracuse. So just a lot of great experiences, a lot of great people, and it's just one of those blessings.
And the last question that we have, we just got about 3 minutes left in the first segment today. You talked about being at Syracuse for about 15 years, and as you look back on your time at Syracuse, kind of overall big picture, what would be some of the maybe the experiences or lessons within coaching that you look to implement here at Siena College within your own program?
That it's about the people you're around. The thing that makes a great place are the people. It is what it is. The people are what makes a place, and that's what I wanted to bring here, was that feeling of family. That's the thing. Every coach becomes immersed in the wins and losses. I like to try to keep it in perspective in terms of, I've said it and I'll say it again, once it stops becoming about relationships and people for me, I shouldn't do this anymore. If I make the wins and losses bigger than the people you're able to impact, you're losing sight of the most important thing. And that's the gift I was given. We put a great emphasis on the preparation to go into winning. Mm-hmm. That's where hopefully the winning takes care of itself. But you spend more time with these guys than you spend your own family. And that's hard for me. Like having children, like that eats away at me sometimes, that I so you have to fall in love with that process. It's because what we signed up for. And I think most coaches, hopefully the ones that do it the right way, that's what they're in it for. So I think that's the biggest thing for me, is the relationship piece. I just got a call last night from an agent, one of my agents, and he asked me for Cole Swider's number. He's like, dude, I met Cole, like, he loves you, what a great guy. I'm like, oh, he's the best. He's like, send me his number. So just how simple that is, like just connecting two people through a mutual relationship of connecting dots, and that's what it becomes about. And it's watching a guy like that fighting and scratching and being on the verge of the NBA. That's kind of what it's about for me, is watching these guys go on from the time that they spend with us, and hopefully we've given them a head start to navigate the next part of their life.
Well, we're excited about that vision that you have here for Siena College. We're going to dive into that a little bit deeper in the second segment of today's show, talk a little bit about the coaching staff, the roster that you put together, and an outlook on the season ahead. Stay with us. We'll be right back here on WVCR 88.3 The Saint. Welcome back to the Saints and Alumni Show right here on WVCR 88.3 The Saint. I'm your host this week, Brandon Murphy, from the class of 2017 and Associate Director of Alumni Engagement here at Siena College. And this week I am joined by Siena men's head basketball coach, Gerry McNamara. So in the last segment, Coach, we talked a lot about your time at Syracuse as a player, as a coach, and the love of the game that you have. And now in the second segment, we want to begin the transition into moving into the leader of the Siena men's basketball program. Can you give the listeners a little bit of insight into the process of knowing about the position that opened up and making that decision as a right fit to lead this team?
Yeah, it's obviously it's unfortunate that I'll address it straight on. I'm friends with Carm. I've been friends with him for a long time. I hate the fact that an opportunity like this for myself comes at the expense of somebody else. That's the part of it. But I was also fully aware of how good a job this is. It's Syracuse up 90. Yeah. I basically said that if I were going to leave a great situation, it would have to be for a great situation. And how do you match what makes a good program a great situation? Well, fan support is out in front of that first and foremost. And I knew that this place has incredible support, incredibly proud tradition, certainly like yourself with the alums. That this place is special. It's fueled by the support. That's what draws people in, especially recruits and people that want to play here, is the support that they get. New fans show up and support you, cheer for you. Is it supported financially, which it is. So, once I got the first initial calls, going down the road with President Seifert and, John and just having those initial conversations, one of the things that stuck out to me the most is how long they've been here.
Yeah.
And I'm coming from a place where people stayed, and they stayed because of their love for it. And that kind of resonated with me because of who I am. We talked about the loyalty piece. Like, I want that for the next stop. Like, if I'm going to be a head coach, I want people that love where they are. And that made a big impression on me. Then you talk about academically what this college does. I mean, number one in the state of New York of graduates walking out of this place with, having a job. It's not easy in today's day and age. So there were a lot of things that completely resonated with who I am, what I'm about, and they all matched here.
So you take the job, and we get to day one, and you got to assemble your program. And the first one I want to highlight is your coaching staff. Kind of who are you looking for in the qualities and the leadership to be on your coaching staff, and what was the process like to put that team together?
Yeah, first and foremost with the coaching staff, I think most coaches will tell you want to hire people that you believe in, that you trust. And that's exactly what I did. I had a relationship with Ben Lee. He worked for Mike Hopkins at Washington. He was the youngest Power 5 assistant coach in the country last year. He was the first one when I got the job that we were behind the scenes, kind of in my negotiation process and before I was even offered, like, hey, just in case I do get offered the job, like, we were already compiling a list of names to kind of hit the ground running. So he's kind of been my right-hand man through the process. Ryan Bury, who worked with me 4 years as a manager, 2 years as a graduate assistant, and last year as our video coordinator. That's been my guy for 7 years. I feel really, really lucky to have gotten him. He's kind of a jack of all trades. He's good on the court. He's good as an ops guy. He's good in this. He's good in that. He's smart, very organized. So, so right from the start, I got out in front. I had an opportunity at Renze Onawaku, who I not only played with, but I coached. He's proven over the last few years how intent he is on getting into this thing. And he worked 2 years in the G League, and then he came back, worked at Gonzaga High School in D.C., which is one of the premier high school programs in the country. And he's terrific on the court. He's got to get his feet wet in recruiting and learn that side of it, but that's why I'm here. And Ryan Blackwell, Ryan Blackwell has head coaching experience. Ryan Blackwell has coached in Japan. He's, won a state championship at Liverpool High School outside of Syracuse. And, a guy that anybody that meets him, like, I knew it with Ryan, like, all I need to do is get this dude in front of parents. Like, he's a home run. He's got head coaching experience, and he's just such a wonderful dude that, like, everybody that he touches likes him, and that's part of it. And he's kind of knocked it out the park in terms of what he's done early in developing relationships on the recruiting trail. And, so right from the start, I just felt like I put not just people I trust, but guys that are hungry and ready to work. And I hope that I'm able to motivate them because they motivate me. And when you have that type of environment, hopefully it's the most productive one.
And you talk about putting Ryan, in front of families, in front of players, and getting out on the road and recruiting. And I want to kind of pivot the conversation now to putting that roster together. What was it like when you came in? The landscape is so different now with the transfers, with the incoming class, with the current roster that you have. Kind of, what were the players that you were looking for to build the roster to be successful?
Yeah, we kind of mix and match and everything. We struck early with size. I was able to bring Peter Gerry over from Syracuse and Miles Wilmoth. And, right after that, we kind of addressed the guard position. But I wanted a certain level of toughness. Marcus Jackson matched that. I had previous relationships with a lot of these guys, so we were able to kind of strike quick. A guy like Reed Ducharme, who I recruited at Syracuse that we got in transfer from Xavier. Justice Schultz, who played for my AAU program in PA. A guy like Major Freeman I had no previous relationship with. We just kind of, struck it up. I walked him through how we wanted to play. I loved his film, and, we got lucky with that one in terms of, he's been really good early in practice, and he's got the leadership qualities. So it was kind of a combination of everything. We struck early in size. I wanted to address the guard position. Then I wanted to address scoring, and we were really efficient. We went 8 for our first 8 in terms of guys that touch campus. We got 8 commitments. Yeah, that's right. Really 9. We had one that committed and didn't announce yet, and in that process decided to get a call from Kentucky. And I don't blame the kid. What a great opportunity. So. We were just lucky in terms of we were on really good players that we had previous relationships with, and then the ones that we really liked in terms of their film, we were able to create them in the speed dating process.
And you talk about recruiting different players, it being different from when you were recruited and just over the last 5 years, and specifically with the NIL. And you talked a little bit about in the beginning, Siena is lucky to have that financial support from the fans and from some of the boosters here. Kind of as you look at the NIL landscape when recruiting, how do you think we can utilize it here at Siena to continue to build the program the way that you want it to be?
Well, we already have, with our collective as Saints March On, and I think we have kind of a step ahead in terms of, you have to have that nowadays in college basketball. The reality of it is you're going to be outbid in a lot of situations. You are. I mean, that's just the nature of the business. If we're at a level where, I think the most important thing for me is I've got to start to kind of set what I think the market is.
Yep.
You don't want to get, I'm not trying to get crazy. Let's stay with what we think is manageable. I don't want one or two guys making, this and this guy making none. We want to have a full roster where we feel like everybody's on the same page. And, we're very fortunate that we have the collective we do, because it keeps us in the competitive playing field, and we want to be right in that competitive playing field. And I think we've done an incredible job of that because of the support we have. And, the unfortunate thing is, like I said, there's going to be a lot of situations, and we weren't in this situation, thank God, so far. But there's going to be situations moving forward that we're just going to be flat out, the relationship is better than any other school, and we're just going to get outbid. And it might be a higher level, and that's just the way it goes. So we've got to just be, continue to be intelligent in terms of who we recruit, how we recruit them, and, be pretty transparent in what we have here.
So we have the coaching staff put together. We've got the roster put together. Summer practices going on, and we're gearing up for the season, and we're putting the pieces together for the schedule. As you look at your non-conference schedule this year and in the years to come, what are the type of teams that you want to play to get your team ready for the MAC League?
Well, you've got a couple different ways to approach it. You could be one of these schools that you want all buy games, and you want to, make a bunch of money and kind of put money back into the school and, help fund some things. Or, do you want to even it out and be competitive and still get home games? I think it's important for me that I continue to keep the fans engaged by having games at MVP. I can't have one game at MVP on a Tuesday and not play there for another 3 weeks. That's important to me. Is I've got to keep, we've got to keep these guys out in front of our fan base. We owe that to them, and I still think we could be, pretty innovative in terms of what we schedule. There'll be a game that's announced soon over the next few weeks that I think we're pretty creative on,
Right.
And it's something that's been on my mind for the last few years. And I have a friend in the business. We had multiple conversations when I was at Syracuse about it. So, we've got some ideas. I didn't have a ton of flexibility in terms of when I got the position of what wasn't already under contract. So the one or two that I had flexibility with, I got creative with.
And to conclude today's show, we kind of want to give just a final message out to the fans that maybe weren't at the press conference or not familiar with the Gerry McNamara story and being here at Siena. You talked a little bit about in the opening statements, the fan base is so rich here, and the alumni office, we do travel on the road. It's great to go down to Marist, to go down to Iona, off across I-90 over to play, Greg Paulus and Niagara. It's a rich environment and a strong fan base, and we're excited for the season. So as you look upon the season ahead and the fans and filling the MVP arena, what would be kind of the final message that you have to the community and as an outlook on the season?
Well, I talked about it even in the presser. I want you to show up and support us, but I have a huge responsibility in that, and that's to put the best product on the court. And, one of the things, the first time I had our group together, the first practice, I said, it's our responsibility to give these fans the product they deserve. And it's my God's honest belief that how you play is a representation of your character. It is. So how I played, I had to play tough. I had to, because I didn't have the length. I'm not naturally just physically gifted, So how you play is a representation of who you are. And what we owe to this fan base is the best product you can put on the court. And that might not mean a win every night. What it means is you are going to fight every night, regardless of outcome. You will fight till the end. That's the group I want to coach. That's the group we're trying to build. And those are the players I'm going to play. So the players within my program, they understand it. They know it. When I've coached them over the last few weeks, I've flat out told them, you'll be sitting with me if you do that. You'll be sitting with me. Because I want the group, I'm going to put the 5 guys on the floor at that time that are giving me the most. And it doesn't, regardless, if I have to go small, I'll go small. If I go big, I'll go big. But it's going to be the 5 guys that give me their very best every night.
Well, Coach, we're so excited for the season, for the vision of the program. I know Joe and I just renewed our season tickets. If you're listening
Let's go
Saints. If you're listening to the show today and you are interested in renewing your season tickets or you want to become a season ticket holder, you can call the Siena College Fan Relations Office to do so. Coach, thanks again so much for taking the time to sit down with us today to share your vision for the program. We're excited for the season, and best of luck.
Can't wait. My pleasure. I appreciate you having me.